In Nigeria, senators under the Labour Party have kicked against the emergence of Senator Abba Moro as the minority leader and Senator Ousted Ngwu as the minority whip in the Senate on Tuesday. The president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, appointed Moro and Ngwu, who were senators under the People's Democratic Party, but a rowdy session ensued following the protests. Now, switching gears, we move to South Africa, where a majority of South African lawmakers on Tuesday voted in favor of a motion calling for the closure of the Israeli embassy and the cutting of diplomatic ties until Israel agrees to a ceasefire in Gaza. My name is Dapo Adegboye. This is The Conversation. Let's talk. Senators under the Labour Party have kicked against the emergence of Senator Abba Moro as the minority leader and Senator Ousted Ngwu as the minority whip in the Senate on Tuesday. Now, the Senate president appointed Moro and Ngwu as senators under the People's Democratic Party, but a rowdy session ensued following the protest. You might want to recall that the seats of the Senate minority leader and minority whip became vacant after the Court of Appeals sacked the former occupants, Senator Simon Davou of the PDP-Plateau North and Senator Darlington Nwokocha, Labour Party, Abia Central, respectively. But before we get into the conversation, let's of course take a listen at what actually happened at the Senate recently. Okay, before we get to that, of course, I have with me in the studio right now to discuss this and shed more light, Dr. Olayinka Oyegbile, the CEO, O Communications, and also a journalist. Thank you for your time, Olayinka.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, this isn't the first time the Senate leader has been accused of being somewhat autocratic. And of course, former Senator Oyegbile, even though he later recounted that particular claim, made such claims earlier. Now, what does this reflect of the leadership style of Senator Akpabio?
I'll be very straight. You know what? Senator Akpabio has, since his ascension to the seat of the Senate president, been behaving like some headmaster, as if he's the headmaster of the other senators. The Senate president is just first among equals. No senator's mandate is bigger than any other senator's mandate. Whether as Senate president or as Senate chief whip or my majority leader or whatever. But you remember, that's the problem you have when you have someone who has been a governor for some time. As a governor, he can tell his commissioners, he can tell his people, his appointees, to sit down there and I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear your voice. But as a Senate president, you don't have that power. Senator Akpabio, to me, is behaving like some local headmaster who wants to make everybody fall in line. Not even under Senator David Mark did we have this. Senator David Mark, you remember, was a general in the Nigerian army. So he will have that commanding feat that he can control every other person. But in this case, does the Senate rule allow the Senate president to appoint leadership for the minority party? I don't think so. Even if the minority parties have met and they have decided that they are going to appoint, they will have agreed among themselves that, okay, these are people we are appointing, and then give it to the Senate president to read it out. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is even Senator Alero, who is a PDP member, had to tell the Senate president that, look, let us leave this till some other time, and then we can go and resolve it. He overruled him and said, no. So is it that he is the headmaster of all senators, or what is he? Because as the Senator Nwoyi of LP said, he told the Senate president, how can you be choosing leaders for us? Are we your slaves? They are not the slaves. As I said earlier, the Senate president is the first among equals. His mandate is not bigger than any one of them, no matter how small the constituency is. In fact, all Senate constituencies are almost about the same. So their votes are the same. He doesn't have the right to appoint a representative for them. The minority party should have met and they should have agreed among themselves. The reason why I'm saying this...
We'll pick up from there, but for the benefit of those watching, let's see what actually transpired at the Senate and then come back to this conversation.
Are we are slaves? The way we were elected was the way we were elected.
While you're talking.
Are we are slaves? How else you can suspend me here? Are we are slaves? Every time you keep on picking leadership for us. We are not your slaves. Whether you like it or not, the way you are elected was the way we are elected. We are not your slaves. The way you are elected was the way we are elected. How else you can suspend me? You have done your worst, Mr. President. What do you mean by that? You have done your worst. You have done your worst. You have put us to the wall. Thank you. Yes, we'll start with that. Meaning what? Meaning what? Meaning what? Meaning what? It's unfair. It's unfair. It's not about me, it's not about any person. It's about the institution of Senate. Thank you, sir. No problem. Meaning what? Every time you give it tomorrow, they want to contest election. They want to open up. He's putting it up. So I told you that they will run the court. He brings up the three part of them.
I mean, this happened in Nigeria on the floor of the Senate. Senator Ngwu actually challenging the Senate President, Senator Akpabio, asking if at all they are his slaves because of his style of leadership. Apparently, there was actually a replacement of vacant seats. And of course, according to senators of the Labour Party, they said that Senator Abba Moro, of course, who was appointed as a minority leader, and of course, Senator Ousted Ngwu as a minority whip, did not actually involve their input. And for that reason, they decided to challenge the decision of the Senate President. But I would like to go back to you, Olayinka. Some have said that, I mean, the senator, if at all you want to look at it from maybe party lines, is an APC candidate and the people appointed are PDP members. I mean, what's the connecting dot here?
Yeah, the connecting dot here for me is that is the APC trying to appoint for the opposition or the minority parties people that they feel they can control or people they feel we agree with them. You also need to understand that Senator Alero, who is also a former governor of Kebbi State, who is a PDP member, even cautioned or told the Senate President that we should stand this down and let us go and discuss among ourselves. But it was overruled. So the Alero of the PDP has all the 3 seats of the appointment. But the Alero was fair enough to call on the Senate President that let us stand this down and go home and discuss this among ourselves. But he overruled him. So that means that what the Senate President is doing is just forcing this thing down their throat. And it's the same thing I was talking about. He's behaving like a local headmaster, that he has to ask every other person to sit down. And that was why that Senator Ngwu, I think, was telling him that the worst that can be done is to suspend him. I like the way he confronted him, because if you know you are right or you are fighting for your own right, you must be able to face and talk to whoever it is that, look, I'm not here to do your bidding. I'm here to do the bidding of my electors, the constituency that sent me here. And if I don't do it, my coming here will be wasted. So I like Senator Ngwu for standing up, and I hope that the other members of the minority parties, even those who are in the party that is having, the PDP that is having all the 3 seats, can also, if support them, support him, or support the Labour Party to challenge this, that look, we don't have to rub it down their throat. Yes, we have the majority, but majority, having the majority does not mean you should have your way all the time, or you should ride roughshod over all the others.
But some have also argued that, I mean, when it comes to this, seems to be more of personal interest, you know, play out, than even, you know, the affair or state of the nation, matters that affect state of the nation. Particularly when issues such as the last time when we had about cars being, of course, what's the word now, given, you know, to senators. There was no rowdiness, you know, on the floor of the House from any of the parties, right? We even had opposition sort of defend this particular move. But right now, when it appears like interest conflict, and then it becomes, you know, some sort of drama, a show, so to speak. So for me, I just want to know, you know, does this in any way reflect the interest of Nigeria or Nigerians?
Well, you know, in everything or in every situation, man must first fight to defend his own territory. So that is what happened when you talk about the issue of the cars. And even this is also part of defending their own territory. But in the larger sense, let us take a look at it. Why should, I know what is annoying to the LP is the issue of the Senate president doing the appointment for them. Yes, we might say that maybe Nwoye, I think that's his name, is fighting because he wants to be the one to be the minority whip or whatever. It doesn't matter. See, the place where you fight against injustice, you fight injustice against yourself, is the same way you will likely fight against injustice for others. You can see what we are saying now, that everybody is congregating around the Senate president, trying to let him see reason that, look, this thing, and I want to warn, or I want to sound a note of warning. With what is going on, the Senate president has been biting more than he can chew.
In what aspect?
He needs to carry everyone along with him. He doesn't, look, in a situation, the Yoruba will say that the leprous man cannot milk a cow, but he can pour away the milk. So what am I saying in essence? He might think that he doesn't need some of the people in the minority parties now, but one day will be one day, a vote of a minority member might be what he would need for something, either for his own survival or for a project or for any votes in the House. And they can deny him that. So he needs to work as a leader that can galvanize everyone together. Look, you know, in the Senate under David Mark, there was hardly any time that they had any problem, even with the opposition party, because he has that camaraderie, he has that influence, he has that aura to carry everyone along. But the way David Mark is carrying on, at the risk of repeating myself, he's no longer a governor. He's not a governor talking to his commissioners or his appointees. He's just a first among equals. So he must be able to learn how to talk to his colleagues. He doesn't have to talk down to them. They are all colleagues. The fact that he's the Senate president does not mean he's better than any one of them there.
I mean, you made reference to, of course, the past, what I call it, Senate seating. And we know that during the time of the previous administration, that's the administration of Muhammadu Buhari, the Senate was more or less seen as a rubber stamp Senate because there was hardly any form of opposition to maybe decisions of the executive. It seemed that like all of them had a single voice. I understand the fact of carrying people along, but also don't you think that to a large extent too, conflict of interest is also healthy for our democracy?
Yes, it's very healthy for our democracy. But let me also tell you that I don't see this Senate being different from the one under Buhari too.
Why?
Yes, I don't see it being different. What is it that the president has asked for that they've not given to him? So the truth of the matter is that the Senate we have been having under the APC, except perhaps during Buhari's first time when Saraki was there, and we know what happened to Saraki, every other Senate we have been having now is a kind of a rubber stamp Senate. Everything the president wants is what he's getting. Now, what I'm saying for Akpabio is not for him to have everybody under his umbrella or under his under his arm, but there's a way that you will even talk to the opposition. There's a way you will carry them along.
What if the opposition insists on being stubborn, and they maybe for political reasons, right? Because we also know that there's a political interest to involved in all of this.
Look,
how do you convince an opposition that is adamant, that feels that, you know what, we've been pushed to a corner, and of course I have political ambitions, I need to move forward, I need to be seen as being, active on the floor of the House? How do you convince such a person that, you know what, we need to push this decision in the interest of the people?
Yes. You see, I don't see an opposition member who will deliberately want to be confrontational, especially when issues being discussed are issues of national interest or issues that will move the nation beyond where we are now. So what the Senate president needs to do is to be, you lose some, you gain some. That's the way it is. Politics is not a winner takes all. Although in Nigeria we do it as a winner takes all, but it shouldn't be, because you are going to win some and you are going to lose some. So you give and take. It is what politics take. And the Senate president, the earlier he learns this, the better for him. Because honestly, you know that...
I was about to even ask you this.
Okay.
Let's take this conversation a bit broader from, just the Senate. Right now, there are talks as regards the style of Nigeria's politics gradually gravitating into a one-party system, particularly with recent trends. We are beginning to see courts upturn election results, for different reasons, to favor, in a way, to tilt to a certain to the ruling political party, and it looks like opposition seems to be, gradually pushed into a corner. Now, my question to you is this: do you really see Nigeria gradually, with the recent trend of things, graduating to a one-party system? And what does this portend for the country's democracy?
Well, it is not impossible, and it is also it is not impossible, but it can happen. It may not happen. Let me explain what I mean. The reason is that for the benefit of those who want to know, a strong opposition is what we need now. Unfortunately, the APC was able to give a very good opposition when it was in when it was outside the corridors of power. But the PDP, because of their own personal selfish interest in the party, they have not been able to mobilize themselves. For instance, now, when we talk about what is going on in the courts, it makes my heart bitter. Look at what happened in Kano. The judgment was given last week. But today now, we are hearing that the certified true copy of the court is now saying that NNPP remains the governor. The NNPP man remains the governor of the state. Then you ask yourself, within last week and now, what has changed? So it gives people who have been doubting the independence of the judiciary a point to point out that, look, the judges are messing things up. Politicians have messed up everything, but the judges are also aiding them. And that is the unfortunate aspect of it. Look, every other sector of the country can go to the dogs, but the judiciary should not be allowed to do that. But in a situation where everything is rotten, do you think the judiciary will be spared? And that is my fear. As we are now, as we are talking now, what explanation will the court, the appeal court in Kano give for what transpired within last week and now? Was it that they need a new pair of glasses if anyone of them wears glasses, or they need glasses if none of them is wearing any? Because was it that they couldn't read between the lines, or the judgment yes and no? They couldn't differentiate between what is yes or what is no. I mean, it gives me concern that, is this the way we want to run this country? I don't want, this country should not and must not go to into a one-party state. It won't be good for our democracy, not at all. So the PDP and you know the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, a few days ago called for the unity of the opposition party. They have to learn from the APC. You know, it was the opposition parties that fused together that led to the APC yes, winning the election from them. So they also have to think and work and leave their own selfishness.
Now, talking about opposition, right? Yes. There's also talks as regards if at all there is a line that, you know, being an opposition, you can't cross. So some have said that, okay, it's good. I mean, it's healthy for democracy. You have oppositions talk and, of course, try to sort of put the ruling party, you know, up on its toes. We saw what happened recently. We are in Lagos State. You know, one of the governorship candidates in the last election actually did write an open letter concerning how money is being spent in Lagos, and that has become public debate. But some have also argued that many oppositions, or quite a number of times, we see oppositions who, instead of maybe being constructive in their criticisms, it's more of a distraction, right? In your own, from your own analysis, would you say that some of the allegations against the Senate president actually, you know, is more of a distraction than what actually is?
Distraction in what sense? The senators have been saying, and I've also said so, that he should tread with caution. Look, we need to look at the Senate rule. Does the Senate rule allow the Senate president to appoint the leadership for the minority party? I don't think so. So the Senate president also needs to watch what he's doing. He needs to carry, as I said, I mean, being a Senate president means that you are not an APC candidate or APC leader, you are not a PDP leader, you are neither LP leader and all that. You are the president over all. It's just like the president of Nigeria. The president of the Senate is presiding over a nation, sort of. Because all the senators with him are like, they are representing every aspect, every part of the country. So he should see himself as the leader of them all, not as someone who will favor one party one party or the other. It's just like the president today. The president must not be seen favoring only states that vote for his party or and so on and so on. So the Senate president must make himself available for consultation and for listening. He must listen to everything every one of them is saying. He shouldn't see himself as an APC man. He's no longer an APC man, even though it was the APC ticket that brought him to the Senate. But now that he's the Senate president, he cannot afford not to make friends with all the other party members.
All right, thank you so much for your time and, of course, your analysis. Dr. Olayinka Oyegbile, CEO Double O Communications, and also a journalist. Once again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.